She opened her door and effectively kind of yelled out to her roommates, calm down, like cut it out, keep it down.
Hello and welcome to True Crime Rocket Science, the most authentic voice in true crime. One reason Koberger may have walked past D, one of the survivors, that's if it was him, was if he was under the impression that she had no idea what had just happened. And that, how could he have gotten that impression? Well, through perhaps something that he heard, perhaps something that she said, something that she may have cried out into the dark. And that might also explain why she went back to bed and went to sleep, because everyone did quiet down. It could also explain why Brian got spooked, perhaps spooked enough to lose track of his knife sheath, and spooked enough to abandon the funhouse after leaving Xana's room. Before we get to the rest of this episode, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do. Incidentally, I'm going to be doing a very deep dive into the baffling, very mysterious Nicola Bulley case, the ongoing search for Nicola Bulley, a 45-year-old from St. Michael's on Wire, or that's where she disappeared from. I think she's from a place called Inskip. Anyway, if you're interested in that case, I'll be doing a deep dive at 6 p.m. Eastern. That is 3 p.m. Pacific time. So look out for that. If you're enjoying this analysis, please like, share, leave a comment. You can also hit the thanks button, and let's get started. So imagine a scenario where he's stealthily making his way up the creaking stairs right in the beginning. The dog starts barking, but he's committed, and then as he begins the devil's work, he hears a voice from immediately below shouting,
calm down, like cut it out, keep it down.
I mean, if the neighbors had issues with the noise, if there were noise complaints from outside the house, why not inside as well? Remember, Dee was a relative newcomer and perhaps was still suffering the effects from the 150-strong party thrown at the funhouse on Friday night. This may also be the reason the suspect bypassed a room where he knew, or he thought he knew, someone was awake. And it does say in the probable cause affidavit that she went into a room and locked her door. Did she lock her door every time she sort of went inside her room? Anyway, you can imagine realizing in the middle of potentially a melee in Maddie's room, oh God, someone's already awake, right? Sort of in the recesses of his mind, he realizes while he's doing what he's doing that his plan's already gone to hell. And perhaps on his way down, Xana was just coming out of the kitchen. Remember, she just ordered food, DoorDash delivery. Maybe she'd returned to the kitchen to maybe they were eating in the bedroom and she returned there to return plates or get a napkin or get a glass of water, whatever it was. So maybe she was coming out of the kitchen, or Ethan was coming out of the bedroom, or one of them was coming out of the bathroom. And as the suspect was making his way down the stairs, perhaps that is when they were curious also about what is this noise and why Murphy was barking. Perhaps that was the moment they saw him, and he did what you'd expect. He pursued them. He needed to kill eyewitnesses. And if Dee, half awake, perhaps her door was closed, if Dee, half awake, perhaps not entirely sober, shouted a second time, "Shut up," that would have confirmed again to the killer that she didn't actually know what was going on, and thus wasn't a threat. That she didn't know what was going on throughout the whole thing. Either way, one has a sense that when the suspect left the funhouse, it was because he'd lost his nerve. Do you kind of pick that up from this version of events? This also reinforces the sense that not only are we not dealing with a seasoned serial killer or criminal mastermind, but a Chris Watts level bozo. Someone who basically conjures up a crime in his own mind and ends up throwing in the towel on his own grand scheme. His moment of glory ends up being just like everything else in his life, a long phase of summoning up the necessary courage, aiming high, but ultimately there's a pathetic execution in practice. Now, all of that is fair and well, but once again, what we are hearing on Banfield contradicts the timbre, the tone, the facts presented in the probable cause affidavit. I don't know how helpful this is in terms of the legal case, to have the media raising doubts about the police investigation in the lead up to a trial. So one does wonder, is this accurate information? And then also, if it is the probable cause affidavit not accurate? And then also, who is providing this information? Is someone leaking information in spite of a gag order? Now, if we return to the probable cause affidavit and we look at what is mentioned there, you can see how clearly this version of events contradicts that, right? It states on page 4 that D stated that she opened her door for the third time after she heard the crying, right? She pertinently heard crying. And I don't know if you would shout out, shut up, or keep it down if you're actually hearing crying. Now, suppose in retrospect you might realize that the sound that you heard, which perhaps you didn't know at the time or realized at the time was crying, you maybe thought it was moaning, maybe thought it was a sexual noise, or maybe you just didn't think about it. But she also said she saw a figure clad in black clothing and a mask that covered his mouth walking towards her. Now, did she dismiss that as well? I mean, how many partygoers came to their home wearing a mask? But I suppose in the gratuitous field, the gratuitous arena that is student life, there are all sorts of weird things and weird behaviors taking place, weird people as well. But the part that sort of stands out is she said that this male walked right by her and that she stood in a frozen shock phase. Now, why would she be frozen and in shock if she thought it was just innocent horsing around? Also, and this is from the probable cause affidavit, why would she, after he passed by her, why would she lock herself in a room? Is it because she always did that? But why would she be in a frozen shock phase? And I suppose there's another possibility as well. It's not either or. It's not that she didn't realize whatsoever what had happened. It could be that halfway through she realized something was going on, or shortly after that she realized something was going on. It could be that in the beginning of the crime she did say something, keep it down. And you can imagine in a house with so many people and a sort of creaking house and a dog, and being woken up at 4 o'clock in the morning, you wouldn't automatically assume, if you're hearing kind of creaking noise of someone going upstairs and sort of what sounds like, scuffling and moving about upstairs, you wouldn't necessarily assume that it's a life and death struggle. You might assume that it's some kind of intimate thing going on, or some kind of game that's going on. You might misinterpret short, slightly high-pitched sounds as someone trying to stifle a laugh rather than someone who's actually experiencing pain. So in the dark, at 4 o'clock in the morning, you might make mistakes like that. The thing is, what is really strange is we're in a weird twilight zone where we're getting information from sources, quote-unquote sources, and we don't know whether they're true, and law enforcement may not say anything, and the trial is sort of 4 months away. So we're in the sort of twilight zone where we can't really tell what is going on. Anyway, I'm not going to take it further than that. As I said earlier, I'm going to be covering the Nicola Bully case. It's a really strange case, quite an inexplicable case The 1 minute that you think that things are going one way, they seem to go another way. There's also a dog in that case called Willow, and I'm going to be taking you through Nicola's Strava account, which really provides fascinating insight into her habits and, as a jogger. And did somebody, similar to the Mo Wilson case, was someone looking at her Strava? We're going to be looking at that in the live deep dive, so make sure you don't miss it. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you guys next time.